everybody, to another episode of the Dork Side of the Ring podcast. I'm your host, your purveyor of all things dorky within the scope of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I am Grum. Hello. It's good to see you guys. Have you listened. It's good to know that here's what I know. You are listening to this week's episode, and that's good enough for me. Even though I can't see you, but soon you can see me. Video podcast working on it. I was trying to talk about this. I was trying to record this before, and I just kept rambling, and then I looked at the clock, and I needed to be somewhere. So, basically, what the video podcast, it comes down to like a creative, I don't know, direction. Is that even that just sounds pretentious? But this is like, I don't know. There's a certain quality and a certain what's the word? Expectation, I guess, is probably the word that I'm looking for my own content to have. And it's like, I want it to be simple, but I also want it to look clean. That's how I always like my all my content to look. And so it's just a matter of like figuring out how I want it to look. I don't want it to just be, oh, here's the cameras, everybody's cameras on, and name. I want a little bit more. I just want just a little bit more. So we're working on that, but that's down the road. Here's what I do know: this week's episode is a lot of fun. It is myself, Carizze, and Johnner. Carizze and John are making their returns to the podcast. Carizze was episode number 21. I think it was 21, the Kiss Demon, and then we had Johnner for episode 12 or 13, the Viagra on a pole match. So those are their two previous. If you can go back and listen to them, go ahead. But it's a fun episode. We're talking about the feud between the Big Show and the Big Boss Man, which makes this the second time the Big Boss Man is a topic. Is involved in the topic, and I even do the worst one, right? Like I did the Kennel from Hell. We did that match, and that was like, it was like that. It's like the thing right before it itself should probably get its own topic, and I could make 2 episodes out of it, which is why I didn't do like, oh hey, let me show Biomart and Nora, who were the guests for that episode, like what happened. I just tell them what happened. And it's just like, it's saving the podcast from getting all the good stuff out. We're keeping some good stuff. We got some good stuff coming up. In fact, we're coming up on it's about, I want to say 2 months from now. This one's coming out the 28th, or 25th. So yeah, it's about 8 weeks, 8 episodes from now. It'll be the 52nd episode, which means we've done this for a full year, which will be good. I got a good topic because it falls on July 4th this year. It's going to be good. It's a nice episode. But yeah, that's down the road. Anything else? Patreon, support.grum.tv. We've got the latest watch along Spirit Squad from episode 23. Yeah, 23 with X and Neezus. It's a good one. I ended up, because it was a lot that we watched. I think it was probably about half an hour of stuff we watched. We watched their debut, and then which in and of itself was an entirely separate match. But we ended up watching the Survivor Series 2006 match, Spirit Squad versus Team WWE Legends. So we watched that. It was a good show, good watch. Go check that out on the Patreon. And streams. I'm streaming once a week in my Discord. I'm looking into expanding that to Discord, and then going back on Twitch, streaming on YouTube, streaming on really anything, Reddit, I guess. I don't know. Not TikTok. That involves getting TikTok, and I don't want to get TikTok. I don't want to get. Nah, I'm good. Maybe soon. I'm good. Anyways. Myself, Carizze, and Johnner talking about the Big Show Boss Man funeral, specifically the Big Show's dad's funeral. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're not, you're in for a treat here on the Dork Side of the Ring podcast. Last time Carizze was on, Carizze was like, I asked like, all right, any questions before we really get going? And Carizze was like, yeah, I just saw this tweet. Who the heck is this? And I'm like, oh, that's like this. It's like Rhea Ripley. And Carizze's like, she's amazing. She's great. And I'm like, have you ever seen her before that tweet? And she goes, no. I just love everything. I love her look and everything. And I'm like, oh, you picked a good one to like off of, just off of that. It's just funny because it's, like I'm a jaded wrestling fan, so, sometimes, like, and I've always said, like, there are people who just look at somebody and go, I like that person. I don't
100%. Their look, the way that they move, or their whole presence. Yeah.
And it's just like they're just so good. I don't need to know anything else. Like I like the look of their character.
That's legit how you, like, as a kid, like, you pick who you like. It doesn't matter how they talk or how they actually wrestle as a kid. It's what do they look like.
What do they look like? 100%.
My favorite was Goldust.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. Like, I mean, people, I grew up.
Part of it is production. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it's a business that's based on looks, like, and this is why when people are like you're just gonna say that they don't look like a superstar. That's why they shouldn't be a superstar. It's like, well,
yeah.
Look, if I'm
exactly.
if I'm in the chicken business and you give me a duck, I'm not gonna make any more chickens with a duck. Like, it's, there's room for the mold breaker or the unique
right, the
one,
outsider,
but like at the end of the day, if everybody in your company doesn't look like, or everybody on your television product or whatever doesn't look like that kind of superstar that draws somebody in, you're not going to draw anybody in. Like, you're not going to get the Carizzes of the world that, just Google wrestling and then they see all these characters and they're like, oh my God, I love this person.
I'm that target market. Yeah.
No, well, that's the thing is, like,
is this the podcast?
Sometimes, who knows? I don't know. I just woke up. I have sleep brain. I literally woke up. What is it, 7:05?
Nice.
15 minutes ago. I'm like, I should get up and, like, at the very least, like, turn on my computer. And then I'm like, all right, I should sit down. And then I'm like, it's 6:55. I need to actually, like, get everything ready for this.
I can't not meme, so.
Thank you so much for the invite back. This is awesome.
Hell yeah. Well,
Sames.
Yeah. Did you say sames? You say sames.
Samesies.
Sames. Oh,
she said +1. So mine's infinitely better.
Oh my God. There's going to be a wrestling match before this podcast is over.
With the feuds, creating and being made. I mean, look, like,
just a heel, natural heel.
You're just a natural heel. That's why we get along, because it's just fun to be the bad guy. Like, if you give me a chance to be a bad guy in a non-serious moment, I will absolutely take it, just because every serious moment, I'm just gonna be
Howard, I take it even in the serious moments.
+1.
Look, I'm not a true heel. I'm just, or natural heel. I'm just, I just like being the heel.
I'm not a good guy. I'm not a bad guy.
I'm the guy.
Just the guy.
We're back. We're here on the dark side of the ring. The voices are familiar. The content we were just talking about sounds familiar because we're running back the guests. We're getting on some of my faves and remixing up and reshuffling the deck a little bit. We've got two incredible, talented, great human beings.
Get out.
Yeah, no, because if I get out, then that gives Johnner a reason to not answer the call when I come back. We got Carizze and Johnner. Welcome back, friends.
Thank you so much for the invite back.
Hello.
This is so cool.
It's good to have you guys. It's good. I'm glad that I when I was looking at, like, the
the roster.
The roster shuffling, however phrasing I want to use on this day, I was like, ooh, you know what? Like, let's put those two together, because the three of us have had, Grand Theft Auto roleplay scenes and scenarios from dumb and goofy.
High five.
Very serious of, like, hey, like, we're looking for murderers, to, hey, somebody attacked my friend and they were an old person. They were just old. That's all we got.
Super goops.
Can you explain how old they are? Well, they seemed like they were ancient, but not quite decrepit. Great descriptions. Good times. So before we get underway fully, once more, just to reintroduce yourself and to introduce yourself to the new listeners who may not have heard your first episodes. We'll start with you, Carizze. Give the people a little bit about yourself, the whole introduction stuff, and anything else you want to throw in there.
All right. Well, the where you can find me live, not that much anymore, but Carizze across the board. If there's a social media out there, Carizze, it's probably mine. And then on TikTok, which is like the new social media crack, it feels like that's where I'm most active. So Carizze Hunter on TikTok, and doing podcasts here and there, which is like a shit ton of fun.
With other people's podcasts? I'm being...
Say it ain't so.
Say it ain't so. I thought I had the exclusive rights. Nah. I mean, look, if it's for free, I will absolutely sign the contract to have the exclusive rights of everybody's future podcast appearances on the Dork Side.
Where do I sign? Where do I sign?
It's not a good deal. You don't get paid for it or anything. It's you just if anything, it's probably worse because it's like, hey, you're on this week, and you're like, well, I'm sick and I don't have a voice. Well, that sucks.
That contract.
You either find a way to talk or I'm gonna sue you into oblivion. That's how I make it rich. That's how I'm gonna make it. Yeah. I think I did it. I figured it out. Johnner, you role played a lawyer. Can you write up some contracts?
Okay.
And on the other side of the table, the snarky yet sweet Johnner. So you thought Johnner doesn't. Jays don't have any like good opposite adjectives. I
did that on purpose.
I mean, it's smart. You're a journalist with honor. But yeah, give the people a little bit tell the little people who have not heard your episode, and those who may have been like, damn, where do I know that Johnner name? Sounds familiar. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
I role play with these two goofs quite a bit. I just role play. It's kind of like what I do. I also am a professional fighter of the Tree Sentinel in Elden Ring. I fought him 200 times on one of my characters. I will defeat him. Maybe attempt number 500. I'm aiming for 500. That's about it. That's all I do is roleplay.
That's it. I exist to roleplay. Yeah.
You'll find me on Twitch. And that's it.
Johnner 1
It's
2
Johnner 1 2 3 4.
1 2 2 3.
1 2 2 3.
2 3.
There's a genre out there that doesn't do it. 2 3. But you should definitely watch the other Dork Side of the Ring that I was on because that was hilarious.
That's a good one. Yeah, both.
Not because of me, but it was just hilarious.
I mean,
have to get caught up.
What's funny is, one of you had one of the more infamous gimmicks, which was the kiss demon. That would be you, Carizze. You and Miss Michelle Jean. And then Johnner, you did one of the more infamous gimmick matches with Dorky, which was the Viagra on a pole.
What? That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, you better be jealous.
So
super jealous.
I tried to see if I could combine one of those weird gimmicks with a match, and I don't know if I quite did it, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So last time we did this, I do have this in my notes, right? So I was like, oh, you know what? When I bring people back, like we'll talk about like maybe did I unlock a thing, or especially those guests who weren't wrestling fans before, did I make something up in them, right? So Johnner, you are a wrestling fan,
technically.
I mean, you don't enjoy it, but that makes you more of a wrestling fan than I, because I enjoy wrestling, and a real wrestling fan does not.
It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just anyway.
No. It's one of those things of like, you get the you watch so much of it, you start going, okay, I'm done.
Like I go for I've seen this one before, right? So like, oh, this has all the beats. This isn't this. It doesn't feel new. Which
How do you get to see it all? It's a lot. Like
There's a
I
lot.
wasn't supposed to do my research, but I went down like the current news of wrestling, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna get caught up on this.
I was explaining this to Rob last night
Crazy.
because Rob was asking me questions about wrestling and incorporating it into our various role playing servers. But I was like, yeah, look, like, you know, there was 100+ hours of wrestling just last weekend. Like, and people
That's
consume.
insane. Is that through all of the different like organizations, or
Yep.
is it just
Yeah.
like one in specific? Okay.
Yeah, so like
Good.
last
Yeah.
weekend was like the TwitchCon, right? Like everybody goes for this one
Right.
thing, but you build a bunch of things around it because you know people are going to be, or maybe probably better is say like, you know, like a PAX or an E3 type thing where you know everybody's going to be there. It's the
Right.
industry thing, and you just build events around it because people are, you know, are going to be in.
You're gonna
in
be
town.
there. Yeah.
Can I quickly interrupt to say I
Yeah, go
love
ahead.
the comparison to WrestleMania and E3 as they're both dying platforms.
E3 is completely gone now.
I was gonna say
Completely
E3
gone.
is a dead, but WrestleMania is not. Like they just
Well,
WrestleMania just had roughly 120 to 140,000 people attend the 2
Get
nights
out for
of
that
the
last
event.
one that happened. Wow.
Yeah, for this past weekend. Yeah, there was it was a 2-night event in Dallas, Texas, and they sold between 50 and 60 tickets for both
for
nights.
in person.
In
Okay.
person, and then there's like, you know, 10,000 or so tickets that go, or 10,000 or so, like, hey, like, you know, hey, paid promotion, you got these tickets, they were, you know, they're free, or you're in the arena because you're working the event.
Right.
But basically, you get a, you know, 120.
sorry, it's dead to me.
It's dead to you. It's fine. That's fine. But you were watching
I
it
feel
with
like
us.
you got a story, J-Ho. Somebody hurt you in wrestling or something?
Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
The same one who hurts me daily, and yet here I come back like Charlie Brown. On this time will be different. But no, like it's 100. There was 100+ hours of content to consume last weekend, from various companies. Like WWE themselves did. Let's see, from Friday to Monday, they did 2 hours, 4 hours, 7 hours, 11 hours, 15 hours, 18 hours of content just themselves.
Oh
Like,
my god.
Produce like live content too. Like not like, oh, like, hey, we did this 2 hours of it. It's live from, like, you know, from go. And then that's the other thing is like other people are also doing live. Like, I mean, there was maybe an hour of pre-recorded this weekend, but it's just like, hey, this show's live for 3 hours. This one's live for 3 hours. 3 hours here, 3 hours there, 4 hours here. And it's like, you know, I can only imagine if you're a fan who attended all these shows, what it was like, because you're going from show to show to show to show to show or event.
Just backpack of food and beverage.
You know, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do that. And then meanwhile, it's just like, yeah, I've done that. I kind of have done that for like TwitchCon, which is, you know,
Yeah,
go to
exactly.
the con,
Yep.
go booth to booth to booth to hang out with friends. Here's a meet and greet. Here's a meet and greet. Here's a community meetup. Here's going out and getting drunk.
Yep.
With Purple
All of a
and
sudden,
company.
time is
Like,
gone. Yep.
yeah, and you're just like, wow, I don't know what happened to time. And then it's Tuesday, and you wondered how you got home. Maybe that's just me, but yeah. So John, you're still a crotchety wrestling fan of the best kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, kids, I remember back in my day. I think it might be a new bit. Is that just make Carmichael a devout wrestling fan and just start yelling?
Oh my god, we could just review like wrestling of the week as just crotchety old men.
We could.
I like this. This is
I
great.
like
you know,
it.
you know what we could call it? We could call the show like the Wrestling Observer, right? Because we're observing wrestling, you know, and we could be crotchety men, and we could call it Wrestling Observer Radio.
Never been done before. I like.
I don't
Yeah.
think, that might be it. That might be it. But Carizze, on the other hand, not a crotchety old man.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
I feel like
Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. The more wrestling you watch, the faster. Who knows? By the end of this episode, you may become a crotchety old man.
Watch it in order.
Right.
Yeah.
Goals.
But last time when we were talking, we had you on. you came out from the episode going like, "Ooh, I kind of want to follow these things." Like, "Ooh, I didn't know that that's a thing." Like, "Ooh, like
Yeah.
So, has there been a wrestling journey into wrestling a little bit, or just like tangentially following things or whatnot? Like, how is Carizze's experiences with wrestling since the last time you were on been?
Well, not so much like getting back into wrestling, but I did get back into the dojo, so I got to actually do some sparring and stuff with friends who I haven't sparred with in a long time. That was fun. But like as soon as you sent me the message about the wrestling thing, then I was back online taking a look at what's going on.
What's
That's a true wrestling fan is when you only pay attention to it when someone mentions
it's
it.
a bandwagon, right? Is that what that is?
Yeah, the truest of fans. The truest of fans.
Truest.
But yeah, all right. So since I messaged you,
I'd be in the ring. I would be in the ring.
Yeah,
if I had the choice.
I that's something that is one of those things. If it's like, like damn, like Carizze would be one of those like just spunky, but like the Spitfire wrestler, which is like
yeah, try and catch me. Yeah,
come on, let's
be
go,
a manager. Don't worry.
Yeah, you do that. That'd be great too. But I could see Carizze in in the ring, being like
I would love that. I would totally do that.
Throwing forearms at people and telling them, "Come on." Does a German suplex to her opponent and like screams to the crowd, and they all get behind her. Yeah.
Well, my history is I do actually still covet the wooden mushroom of wrestling championships amongst my friends. I think I told you that before, Grum, that we had this little trophy that we kind of every time everyone got together, we had a wrestling match happen in the basement or out in the backyard, and I still hold that mushroom. This is like 10 years later. Yeah.
Look, people we've been doing this for almost a year, and people have been telling their stories about how they own, all the championships and whatnot. We've got people now who listen and go like, that championship is mine. Like, you tell them, don't ever let them be in the same room as me. Like, I'm taking their championship. I'm taking it, and they're never going to.
I'll take them all down, Grum.
How dare they?
I'll take them all down.
Look, it's a cut.
Dare you, listener?
Damn you, listener.
Our belts.
No belt. You say you just want to be no belts. You don't want to be the belt collector. You want to be the opposite. You want to be like the belt. You want to saturate the market.
They're too heavy.
I mean, they really are. I'm more like give me like the diamond ring. Like, give me that, right? Like that's been a gimmick before. Like you wrestle.
Oh, is that a thing? You get a ring too? Okay.
Well,
sometimes.
Yeah.
It sometimes it works out real good, and then
I get the brass ring.
Yeah, and then sometimes yeah. Like currently MJF in AEW has the diamond ring, and it's just like he basically wins like a battle royal tournament thing, and he just uses it to sometimes he'll punch people in the face with it because it's really obnoxious as a ring. But there's like Diamond Dallas Page had one before.
That'd be obnoxious to get punched with. Oh my god!
It's part of his ring attire. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, yeah, that's that. You just walk around with this fat diamond ring that looks like a Super Bowl ring. You're like, yeah, nah, I'm good. Like, give me that.
What's the ref going to see? A giant belt that goes around your waist, or a tiny ring on your finger?
A tiny ring. He said it's giant. It's a giant.
Well,
ring.
Giant for rings, but
giant for rings compared to a title belt. I mean, Carizze, you posted a gif of Alexa Bliss with the Raw Women's Championship when I said hello. It's as tall as her. She's 5 feet, and like the thing is as long as she is.
Right.
So, a ref will absolutely see somebody use that. They won't see the little ring finger get loaded up. Or you could be like William Regal and have a whole set, have brass knuckles. Could always do that. Those are effective in any case. But I bring you here for another installment of the Dork Side of the Ring, and I feel like Johnner is gonna know this thing. But before we get to that, I do have to ask, like, what is the most satisfying comeuppance for a villain that comes off your mind, right? Like
the most satisfying comeuppance.
Like, for example, like I think of like Lion King, right? Like I remember being a kid, right? Scar Scar turns on, long live the king's Mufasa. Mufasa falls to his death. He gets trampled, and then Simba's like, Dad, and then Scar lies to Simba. Simba runs away.
You just gave me goosebumps.
Right? So and then Scar just ruins every fucking thing. But he's content, right? Because he's like, yeah, I'm living good. But when he gets his ass beat, and then he gets to long live the king and get thrown off himself. That's a satisfying comeuppance, right? It's not that, it's not that it's satisfying because Simba leads to, Simba does the whole, long live the king, throws him off, and then is eaten by his army because he lied to them. That's one of the most satisfying comeuppances that I can remember, especially growing up as a kid, is yes, we did it! Me and Simba, we did it! Let's go! We stopped Scar. Or another one is just seeing Loki, the first Avengers movie, be like, I'm a god. You're gonna bow down to me, and then immediately just gets grabbed by the Hulk and smashed.
And just smashed around. Great scene.
And it's just it's simple. It's just a simple comeuppance. It's you're so braggadocious, but there's a monster who is 30 feet tall, and he's gonna grab you by the ankles and use you like a racket on the floor.
You put Disney in the head, and I have to think of when.
Yeah, I know.
I'm trying to Toy Story.
Oh,
you have
Toy Story.
When Woody turns his head, we're always watching, and then he freaks out, and you find out years later he becomes a garbage man.
That's the ultimate comeuppance.
But then you realize, oh, he's got that pension, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It doesn't actually. Do we really win? It really does put a sour taste in your mouth as a viewer to know that Sid is now a blue collar worker with a solid pension. And a government worker gets all federal holidays off and everything. Yeah,
that was a terrible example. My apologies.
It was good in the moment.
Good in the first one.
And you're like, yeah, maybe sequels were a mistake, even though Toy Story 3 is my favorite of the Toy Stories. But yeah, what about you, Carizze?
God, I'm totally in that rabbit hole of Disney movies. I can't think of anything right now, but maybe it's going to pop up sometime during this podcast.
First Batman, Christopher Nolan.
Oh,
100%.
Hold on. The first Batman, sir, was.
Okay, I meant the Christopher Nolan series, that one, not in general.
Okay.
Batman Begins.
He leaves him in the train, yeah.
He's like, yeah.
I don't have to kill you, and then just bails.
But I don't have to save you either. And it's like, oh! I mean, technically, your inaction did kill him, Batman, so. But I mean, it goes back to the point of if Ra's al Ghul never turned on never went to on the train, this doesn't happen. So, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good comeuppance. It's just it's a good comeuppance makes any movie infinitely better. If you don't have a satisfying comeuppance for not even an equal or greater reaction. Like I said, Scar throwing Mufasa off and then being told that long live the king as he's getting thrown off of Pride Rock is that's my go-to one when I'm that's satisfying.
That's the ultimate. Yeah, it's very Hamlet.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's my comeuppance. Hamlet.
Just Hamlet.
Well, kind of the same thing if you think.
Yeah, I mean, true. But that's the other thing. Disney movies, I felt they often would looking back on it, often took the easy way out for the villain, right? The bad guy just dies, right? Maleficent just turns into a dragon and is slain. The witch in Snow White just slain. It's not oh, they've been murdered.
Turn it around. Yeah.
Karma's nice, right? Forcing the witch
to wrap up the movie.
Huh?
Yeah, wrap up the movie.
I mean, yeah, but that's just the easy way out, right?
That boy's been 2.5 hours. He's gotta go to bed.
Disney took a turn and started to highlight the criminals or the bad guys, so that you actually saw their side of the story. Which is actually, the whole Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah,
that whole thing was so good. It's a good comeuppance, even though it's kind of tragic at the end.
Yeah, that movie just that if you asked me what an average movie was, like where you didn't feel bad coming out of it, but you also didn't feel good.
Yep, that would be it.
That would be it. Where it's just like, well, I just watched.
You're like, ooh,
I'm like,
yeah.
it wasn't bad, but it didn't blow my socks away. Like, yeah, I find the internet like just taking it and turning it into memes of like, you think that's funny, and it's just like, yeah, I do, because but I know people were like clamoring and still are for a sequel to it. And I'm just kind of like,
no, they got to leave that alone.
Yeah,
that's just a one-off thing.
The thing I like about it is that it doesn't even have to be like a Batman movie. Like it could just stand on its own.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just set in this Gotham City and some of the same people. Like outside of the idea that it's the Joker and the Waynes are in it, like there's nothing about that, and that it's set in Gotham.
It's not a feel-good movie.
No,
definitely not.
It's
no.
No. Like, I remember I was talking to someone and they're like, yeah, I didn't think you would like it because it's not a comic book movie. I'm like, whoa. I like movies that are not comic book movies. But I also like movies that are, like, at least give me some sort of feeling at the end of it. Like, like, I'm not sad. I didn't leave Joker going like, oh, man. That's a great. I like the pacing. It's
a feel-good movie. Yeah.
I'm like, Joaquin Phoenix was pretty cool in it. That's great. Everything else about it was just kind of meh. But it's like Paul Dano in the Batman. He made me feel fear. I was like, damn, this is scary. That's a real life person. But I think I've talked about Batman on here. I don't need to talk about it anymore. I
feel like
I gotta binge watch those again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3 hour. The new one's a 3-hour movie, so that's a whole afternoon, and I think it comes out. I think it's next week or the week after it comes to HBO Max. So.
Oh, really?
I think so. I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but trust me, the fact that I don't have to go. I mean, I might do it anyways, just go see it in theaters again because I want to feel the rumble of the Batmobile again. But outside of that, I mean, I still probably would. Who knows? Maybe we'll go see it this weekend. But. Let's see, what other, like, comeuppances have been, like, satisfying? I'm trying to think, like, if Pixar knocks it out of the park every time, Sid, Big Al, Lotso, the Grasshopper, in Bug's Life, the, what's the guy from, Cars? The guy who's yeah, that guy, like he loses, thought he wins, but he loses. Like they normally knock it out the park whenever the antagonist of the movie. Although now a lot of their movies, the antagonist isn't a person, which I find very interesting. Like Onward didn't have an antagonist.
It's an object.
Yeah, okay. or like it's a lot of internalized conflict. Like Onward was like the conflict was I thought it was good. I mean, Pixar has low floors. Like their movies cannot get any worse than like a C plus B minus. Like even their worst like outings are like Cars 3 and Cars 2 are still good, like solid movies, because mainly when you make kids movies, it's very easy to make an above average film.
Yeah, just something slightly entertaining. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what other like famous villains that got like
revenge, or
not even like revenge, but like their comeuppance, right?
They
like,
won in the beginning and lost in the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like because a lot of movies, especially
I'm
nowadays,
so on the other side. Maybe if I was in the wrestling ring, I would be the bad guy. I feel like all my comeuppance have something to do with the bad guy winning.
Well, they do have to they have
That's
to
where
win.
I am.
They have to win at first. Like Scar, it doesn't feel satisfying if Scar never wins, right? It's basic psychology. You want to root for the main character to overcome. But I feel like a lot of movies nowadays, like the end, like the whole like, oh, like we have to overcome the villain doesn't happen until like the second half of the second act. Like, and you're like, okay, here we go. You know, and time for the third act and the climax now. Like, okay, most of the movie, the villain was getting their ass handed to him, but now all of a sudden they're a threat, and it's like, that's upsetting. Damn, like yeah, I'm trying to think of like I keep going back to Disney just because as a kid, that's when I felt like emotionally invested in the journey of the hero, right?
Right.
Of overcoming and serving sweet justice, just desserts.
Oh, what about the guy in Baby Driver? Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's a satisfying. Yeah, that's a good one.
That was a really good movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
great.
That's always good. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Jamie Foxx is yeah, it's good. I feel like man, like weirdly, is Michael Cera the bad guy in Scott Pilgrim versus the World? Like, is Scott Pilgrim the bad guy?
See, there you go.
I mean, yeah, but
Yeah,
Because like he gets his comeuppance.
he's just a guy. He's
He
just a
was
person.
unaware.
It's just,
Yeah.
he's just a person. He won.
But like it's weird, right? Because he's like he wins, but then he also doesn't win, right? Like he doesn't necessarily deserve to win because he necessarily isn't a great
Right.
person, but he's still not the worst person. Now, let's see. Like I'm just gonna Google most iconic villain. Just
I was totally doing the same thing.
just to think of like like who comes up, and of course like
Let's see.
like Michael Myers is like I mean these are just I'm just looking at like who gets like actual comeuppance and like it's all horror movie monsters and what's this Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. I think there's a little but not really Hans Gruber. That's a good comeuppance.
oh yeah.
That's a good comeuppance.
Oh,
mean-
I just came up to that one too.
Yeah, just he gets
Yep.
thrown off of the.
Oh, he's the best bad guy.
Mhm.
You think he's the
He's
best
so
bad
good.
guy?
I do. Even though he did like with Snape's, right?
Yeah.
Snape's and yeah.
Snape wasn't a bad guy though, so it's like,
I mean,
No, he wasn't.
He
But-
wasn't a
but
bad guy,
he-
but he was.
You had to discover
just a
who he
jerk.
was to know that he wasn't a bad guy.
Man, that's one of them. That's a man. I remember reading the Half-Blood Prince and just like, and that's where they're like, oh yeah, we're really gonna focus on that. Snape isn't necessarily a bad guy, but he kind of is. And oh wait, he just murders Dumbledore. Oh god, he is a bad guy. But then you realize, oh, Dumbledore wanted that the whole time. Like that's what he wanted. Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay.
Gordon Gekko made the list here on the one I'm
Really?
looking at. Yeah, Gordon Gekko. It's Wall Street.
Huh.
Super, super old movie.
Oh, you know what's another good one? Mighty Ducks 2. That's a good comeuppance.
yes.
Mighty Ducks.
Right? With the team, the
Ducks
Icelandic.
fly together.
Yeah. Well, when times get tough, ducks
fly together.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The Icelandic junior team getting he's the coach of it ends Gordon Bombay's playing career and is just a villain, and he teaches his team to be ruthless and brutal, and then they lose. That's a good comeuppance. Also, maybe Mighty Ducks 1 too, because his coach, the coach of the Hawks, is his old coach, and he's like, "You're a bastard, Gordon Bombay. You could have been something, But then again, Gordon Bombay had to be a terrible person the first time and drive drunk and get sentenced. Also, just wild. The premise is you were driving drunk, but because you're a rich person, you're going to have to do community service, and your community service is specifically to coach this team.
Not wild, it's realistic.
It was realistic until it was like, all right, you have to coach this hockey team.
You don't think that happens like
No, I
In
don't.
real life?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, where would you rank? Like we've done this before. we've talked about this person and their villainous deeds, and there was one that was very, very, very on theme. But where would you rank dumping a dumpster on top of somebody's car in terms of villainous? Like, they're just a bad
Villainous
guy,
activities.
and somebody, the hero in the story, drops a dumpster on top of their car.
That sounds like the hero's the bad guy. Hold on, that's such an inconvenience.
Like, they're in the car. By the way, the bad guys are in the car.
Okay.
Is it convertible?
No. It's a regular sedan.
Oh, then it's like a 4. Like, it's bring to the car wash. I guess the dents or whatever. It depends on how heavy the garbage.
Yeah. Does it crush them?
What was thrown out? Wait, did they dump the
questions?
The whole dumpster,
the garbage?
The dumpster they dropped the dumpster on top of the car.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a garbage
Whole
truck
thing.
just dumping garbage.
No. They
Okay.
basically push a dumpster over a ledge onto the car.
Right,
Onto the car.
I've watched a lot of wrestling, so I
Murder.
know.
Okay.
I've seen worse.
Yeah, in terms of live murder attempts, this is low on the wrestling attempts.
Watched cement just be dumped on the car. I watched a man just get in the car and it blows up. So it's like,
Oh God.
Yep. I've seen
watched a
people
tour
be
bus
thrown.
blow up.
I've been seen somebody drop a wrecking ball on top of a tour bus.
Yeah, it's like when you watch wrestling. Honestly, the dumpster is like a 4.
Yeah.
Oh, these are real things. You're saying
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things actually
Yeah,
happen.
these things. Yeah, these things.
Well,
Somebody driving
quote unquote real.
somebody
but
driving
yes.
somebody driving a Mack truck into an ambulance with somebody inside the ambulance. I think that's
Okay.
That's probably
That's
an
pretty
8
nefarious.
or 9. That's a pretty much a 8 or a 9. But yeah. And it's funny because I was talking about I had a previous episode we were talking about Katie Vick. Pause for John's reaction. There, sounds good. Which was a segment in which Triple H, who was a bad guy, pretended to be Kane, a good guy, performing necrophilia on a corpse.
Now,
Okay.
to be fair, Kane, the good guy in this scenario, is a child who died and became a spawn from hell to get back revenge on his brother. He's the good guy.
So Kane, at this time of the story, the Katie Vick story in 2002, is a good guy, right? But in 1997 and 1998, he was the bad guy. He was thought to be dead, but he was alive, and he was just severely burned because
I'm just badly burned.
Now he can summon fire.
Yeah, and he can summon fire, but his brother could summon lightning. So really, it's not that far off.
Okay.
But now he's a good guy. We all like him because we want to cheer for him. And it turns out that he was involved in an accident that killed a friend of his. But when he tells people this story, the bad guy, Triple H, claims he's not telling the whole story, which the whole story was he was drunk driving. And when they did the autopsy on her, on his friend Katie Vick, they found semen on her. To which then the bad guy Triple H goes, "My question is, did you force her to have sex with you, or did you wait till she was dead?" And it's like, okay. And then the next week, he has footage. He says, "I got footage of what happened." And he basically, Triple H dresses up like Kane, and he's like, what is that, Katie? You want to do it right here? All right. And then he hops in the casket and fucks a doll, simulating necrophilia. Right?
Yeah.
So naturally that causes a conversation of who are the most heinous bad guys within the stories of professional wrestling. And it's Triple H is pretty bad.
You say that that's up there.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Triple H is pretty up there. Vince McMahon is up there. Vince McMahon lusted over a woman who's in her late 20s in front of his comatose wife. She's consciously there, but she can't move at all. She's in a coma.
Right.
He fired his daughter. He did this stuff, and then we were talking about how Randy Orton is pretty bad. Randy Orton one time punted his opponent's father. He pulled him out of the crowd and punted him. He, funny enough, happened to Triple H, talking about comeuppance in a way. Handcuffed Triple H to the ring ropes, DDT'd Triple H's wife, and then kissed her while she was unconscious. So that's pretty up there.
As bad as all those are, remember the time where Triple H and Shawn Michaels put a bunch of cheerleader men into a crate and shipped them to Madagascar?
They shipped them to Louisville. It's worse.
That's like murder, right? You don't survive that.
Yeah, no, I mean you don't. I mean there's been somebody threw people off of the roof of the WWE offices.
Well, I mean that's
what?
Not that bad.
Randy Orton also set a man on fire.
Undertaker's
Undertaker
buried a person in cement.
He buried his surrogate father in cement. He also he also performed satanic but totally not satanic rituals.
Crucified people.
Speaking of which,
definitely did not hang Boss Man.
Vince McMahon gave his daughter to Undertaker as a sacrifice.
Oh my
better
God.
than the other storyline they were going to do.
That's true. That's true.
It's a lot better.
Let's see. But yeah, it's funny you bring up the Boss Man, because when we were talking about this conversation the other day in another episode, I didn't remember all the heinous things that the Big Boss Man have done, including feeding a dog to its owner.
I don't remember that. And I did not. That I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember? So this is the whole premise of the
Fill
kennel.
me in here.
Huh?
Fill me in here. Okay.
So the Big Boss Man. By the way, this is not our topic, but it does relate to the Big Boss Man. It's a topic. So I talked about this with Biomart and Nora, the Kennel from Hell match, right? That was the concept that they were doing. Well, WWE at the time had a character by the name of Al Snow, and he got very popular by asking people one simple question: what does everybody want? And
head.
The crowd would answer head. The reason why they would answer head is because he had a mannequin head, and he would rock it. He would headbang with this mannequin head. He put a
what else could there be?
Right. And what does everybody need, Johnner?
Head.
Exactly. So this guy Al Snow got over with this mannequin head. Problem is, he also was this like little demented of a character. Like he had Help Me. I'm
on a video right now. I'm getting caught up as you're talking.
So he's got Help Me backwards. Like he wrote it in a mirror, but he also did it on the mannequin head. Well, they kind of got heat for it because the mannequin head kind of seemed like a woman's head, because they gave it
totally a woman's head. Okay.
Correct. Well, that made people go, wow, they're promoting violence against women, like serious violence against women.
Ah, yes, that's the first time that's...
Right? Yes, yeah. When he's asking, what does everybody want? And people are going, blowies. Give me a blow jibber. Like, but...
What?
A blow jibber.
That's what they were... Oh, my God.
So, I need to isolate that sound. What? But in an attempt to get away from that, they took away that element from his character, and they gave him a dog named Pepper.
They also made him into an action figure, including the doll head.
Correct.
What the heck? Okay, all right, continue.
Yeah. So they, in an effort to get away from that, they were like, well, here's a dog. And he's like, okay. Is it a trained dog? And they're like, yeah, it's a trained dog. And then he met the handler of the dog, except the handler of the dog was its owner. They basically called a local vet and said, hey, do you know of any people who would like to have their dog on television? And a little chihuahua. So a little chihuahua named Pepper, all this stuff. Cute dog. Leads to being in an attempt to get one over on Al Snow, the Big Boss Man kidnaps the beloved Pepper. He then tells Al Snow that if he wants to see Pepper again, than to come to his hotel room and join him for a nice dinner.
Oh.
Okay,
Oh,
red
wait.
red flag.
I
Okay,
forgot where
yeah.
this was going.
Yes. And then he ends up telling he's like, where's Pepper? Al Snow shows up, where's Pepper? He's like, whoa, Bal, first dinner. You agreed to the rules. You got to have dinner first. He's like, hey, here, I made it myself. I've been slaving away at this. It's a really good steak. It's just, please try. And he's eating it. And he's like he's doing the thing where he doesn't want to enjoy it, but it's actually a good steak, and he's eating it. He's like, that was good. What is this? He goes, oh, it's just a steak. Put a little pepper in it. And then starts cackling like a maniac. He fed the dog Pepper to Al Snow, Pepper's owner. And
I just got caught up on this scene. Okay.
And then Al Snow goes, you bastard. For revenge, I'm going to challenge you to a match where Pepper's friends, who are also mad at you, are surrounding the ring. So basically the concept is a big 16 by 16, like a 16 high,
Rottweiler.
30-foot cage surrounds the ring. And inside of the ring, there's a regular steel cage that's set up. So it's like two cages in one. And around the floor are Rottweilers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is WWE did not get Rottweilers, or they did get Rottweilers. They just didn't get trained ones because the ones that they got all just wanted to hump, shit, and piss.
I didn't know this.
So they got rid of the footage of they were live showing these dogs fucking on, because they're just like, look how ferocious these dogs are, and the dogs are just and Jerry the King, it's a mess of a thing. It's episode 13. Me, Nora, and Biomart went over it. It's an incredible one. It's available on the Patreon. The watch along of it. It's actually a good one. A lot of fun. But the reason I say it's related to the Boss Man is because Boss Man is our topic of tonight. But it's specifically what it's wild to say this, but this is probably even more heinous and evil of what he does. In 1999, months after getting involved, exactly 2 months after feeding Al Snow his dog, the Big Boss Man decides that he is going to prey on the mind of the Big Show.
I know where this is going.
The Big Show's dad was dying from cancer, and the Big Boss Man decided, I'm gonna fuck with this big guy. The Big Show is 7 feet tall, 500 pounds, and he is going through it. His dad is dying of cancer. He's not, in an attempt to make
not in a good place. Yep.
In an attempt to make the crowd, empathize with this it's hard to empathize with somebody who is 7 feet tall, 500 pounds, and able to do whatever they fucking want. So his dad's dying. We'll use that. The Boss Man then goes, and says, look, if I had a son as stupid as you, I'd want cancer so I could die too. And said a lot of just horrible stuff. He then also, we'll get into it, what we'll watch is how he disrespected the Big Show's papa at his funeral. And then the comeuppance at Survivor Series 1999. So, we'll be back here on the
Excited.
Dark Side of the Ring. Good time.
All right.
We'll be back here on the Dark Side of the Ring.
Hey everybody, a little break in the episode here while we watch what we're watching in the past, I guess. Anyways, look, we're here. I wanted to tell you guys, support.grum.tv. It is the Patreon if you want to support me and the podcast financially, continuing what we're doing over here. Please do that, support.grum.tv. For as low as $1, that gets you basic stuff. You get become a part of the greater Grum community. By just going to grum.tv, they'll take you straight to the Discord where I stream at least once a week. Right now we've been doing a lot of Elden Ring stuff, which is a lot of fun. I'm hooked on it. I've put 60 hours into it. It's a fun game. Anyways, but also if you want to support us and you don't necessarily have the cheddar or money's tight or whatever, you go to at Dorkside Ring on Twitter and on Instagram. And you could also go and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and you can leave a 5-star rating on Spotify. That's right, Spotify now does star ratings. You give a 5-star, be your own Meltzer. Give us a 5-star. If we were in the Tokyo Dome, it'd be 6 stars. You understand, right? I appreciate it if you guys do that. Check us out on the socials at Dorkside Ring for all the reviews. Appreciate it. Now let's get back to the show.
We're back on the dork side of the ring. So we just watched Big Boss Man desecrate the sanctity of mourning and a funeral. So we'll do what we normally do here and get the first impressions. Carizze, what's the first impression of everything you saw?
Well, I think that it's Big Man Al. Is that his name?
Big Boss Man.
Big Boss Man should definitely write Hallmark cards. That's what I got out of that. And he's a big chicken shit.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's just a bad guy who runs away. He does end up getting his comeuppance in just a regular match. I think he actually loses his hardcore championship to the Big Show.
Okay.
But
costumes on point.
Yeah,
on point.
Yeah. A lot of leather. lot of leather in that Survivor Series match. What about you, John? Or first takeaways from what we watched?
Wrestling hasn't really changed ever. They still book matches the same. Yeah, I don't remember the match. I definitely remember the
feud.
The feud, everything that led up to it.
Mm-hmm.
That I remember because that kind of sticks. When you watch a giant man jump on a casket, you kind of don't forget that.
Right.
Yeah. So we watched the condensed version because the long version of it was just a little too long.
What's the relationship before that? So what led up to this whole feud between those two? Because it felt like I couldn't really tell who the bad guy was.
They had nothing going on.
Well,
okay.
I mean, yeah, they had nothing going on, and they wanted, like I said, they wanted to make the Big Show sympathetic, right? He's the good guy. You want to root for him, so they go,
because
"Hey,
his father died."
Correct,
okay.
right? And naturally, the Big Show, the Big Boss Man, being an evil man, tortured and mocked, this man having feelings, and so that's what made the Boss Man. The Boss Man was already the bad guy because 2 months before that, he fed somebody their dog. Right. It's just like, oh yeah, no, this guy's definitely the bad guy here. But it was an opportunity to let Big Show be big. He throws a he smashes a car up with his bare hands and drops a dumpster on him. Which you want to, in terms of pro wrestling, you want to see big people do big people things, and that's an enormous person thing. Like he pushed a dumpster over a ledge onto a car. No normal person can do that, mainly because normal people get arrested for doing that. But it's just a matter of the Boss Man wanting to be an evil person and just being an evil person, really. So it's like, all right, like the lead up is just that he's a bad guy, and we wanted to make wrestling in the scope of the WWE storytelling. They wanted to make the Big Show sympathetic, and you wanted the viewer to root for the Big Show to go do big people things, right? Like, it's when you're like the smaller guy and you're like, oh, this guy keeps attacking you, it's easy to be like, all right, cool, like get the comeuppance, right? But when you're already the bigger guy in the thing, like, just go fight the guy, right? Like, whatever, like, I just want to see you fight the guy, but now there's a reason to want to go beat up the guy, right? Like, all right, this guy crossed so many lines these last couple of months that he needs to be stopped, and you're the guy to do it. Also, he's been mean to you, so it's giving you a reason to go attack this guy, to be the embodiment of karma, to be the physical comeuppance of this bad guy. As if being hung at Wrestlemania wasn't comeuppance, enough.
Now, where are these guys right now? These two wrestlers, are they still?
So Big Boss Man is dead.
Norman?
He died.
Oh, okay.
Passed away in 2004? 2005? I want to say 2005. He passed away 2004, and it was just like a kind of talk about how like wrestlers are their own worst enemy. He died of a heart attack, and he basically he laid down on the sofa and
just didn't wake up.
Didn't wake up. He I don't remember if it was like I don't know if he did steroids, but like I know that they're like, you know, he's one of the guys that he died at 41. Like there are people who are wrestling now. There's multiple wrestlers who are multiple years above 41 that are still wrestling. And he wrapped up wrestling in like 2000. He was wrestling, you know, here and there in 2004, and you know, passed away. He was when it comes to like him just being just like he was like he's known as like one of the first big guys who could move, because I mean you saw how big he was. I mean he wasn't that big compared to some of the guys he was in the ring with, but he was known as like, hey man, he can move, he can really go, and he really was a former correction officer in Cobb County. Like that was his real life job before becoming a wrestler, was being a corrections officer. Now the Big Show, he's wrestling in AEW. He's still going.
Is he actually wrestling? I thought he had like more of a on the scenes role.
He shows up, wrestles every so often. He's 50. Hold on, what age is he? He's 50. He turned 50 this past February.
He's still wrestling. That's wild.
He's still wrestling. Yep.
Huh.
Yep. And he's in great shape. Plus, the thing is like he's just a big guy, so he's, you know, it's easy for him to do the wrestling thing now at 50, which is all of you, you know, I'll fight 7 guys at once and then I'll win because I'm 7 feet tall. And he's like a funny guy. He tells a story about how he used to be, as you saw, like that was him probably at a fitter time. He was probably like closer to 475, which is still like kind of, you know, a lot.
Massive. Yeah.
Massive. But at one point he got to like 525. He's walking around over a quarter of a ton. And he lost a lot of weight, and he was at like a Starbucks or something. And this lady is like eyeing him up, like, you know, like it's like checking him out and everything. And he goes, "Are you excuse me, ma'am?" And she goes, "Oh, I thought you were the Big Show, but you're too skinny." He's like, "I am the Big Show." And she goes, "No, you're not." He got love.
And that's how the next wrestling match began.
She's like, nah, he got that love weight on him. And he's like, I don't know how to tell you this. I am the Big Show. Like she was into the Big Show because he's a big, tall, thick man. And he was just a normal tall man now, apparently.
How dare he take care of himself?
Yeah. Because he had the same thing that Andre the Giant had as a kid. Andre the Giant had this disease that basically affected, like when you're going through puberty, your pituitary gland is releasing the hormones that makes all your bodies start growing and all this stuff.
And his didn't stop.
Yeah. It continued to grow. That's why he became an enormous person. Well, Big Show, they were able to do, by the time he's growing up and he's turning 18, they're going, oh, like, hey, we can stop this.
Similar thing.
You know, like,
oh, they did stop it. Okay.
So when they had to wait till he was 18. They discovered it when he was like 14, because I think between 13 and 14 he grew like 6 or 7 inches, and they're like, that's ridiculous. Like, you know, they discovered he had the same thing, and they were able to perform surgery so that it wouldn't release the hormones, so that but he topped out at 7 feet tall, and then his frame was able to hold all this weight. So like, you know, it's basically like, hey, what if Andre the Giant just didn't have, like, what if Andre the Giant's body just stopped trying to kill himself? Which is just wild to think about, because like Andre the Giant, would drink
A case of beer.
a case of beer, 7
Yeah.
bottles of wine, just to numb himself because he was in constant pain. It's like, I like me. I'm 6'3". Sitting on a plane right now is uncomfortable. I can only imagine what being 7'4", 500 pounds.
But fame will get you some more room on a plane.
Yeah, but it's the 70s,
So,
right? So it's like everything is smaller. Like cars are smaller.
Truth.
Like they drove. They tell a
Was
story.
Andre the Giant 70s?
Yeah,
I guess he would have been.
70s, 80s, yeah. And and he's flying. Like he's going from like, France to like New York to Dallas, to Seattle, to Japan, like within a 3-month span. So he's flying, and it's just like Jesus Christ, like the amount of just stress that has to do just like to get into I have to duck getting in a plane now in the year 2022. I have to duck to get into planes. That he had to duck the whole time. My shoulders almost touched the baggage. It's just like,
that's crazy.
Absolutely wild to think about, like, being in the 70s of just how ill-equipped everything was for somebody my size, let alone somebody a foot taller than me. Absolutely wild. But the plus side of me not being 7'3" is that if I want to wear a leather jacket and matching leather pants, it's not going to cost me $7,000, like it probably did the Big Show. Have
you looked into this?
I haven't, but the amount of leather that the Big Show was wearing at his dad's funeral is preposterous.
Yes, it is.
Like, I understand it's November, it's probably a little cold, but that's just so much leather. Like, and I don't understand where you find all that. Like, where do you have to go to find a leather jacket with a matching leather pants?
Butchery? I don't know.
That were like leather slacks too. They weren't like, like metal, like D. Snyder leather pants. Like they're like leather pants.
Heavy duty.
Yeah, you could wear them around.
Still moving them too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was moving in them. It was ridiculous. He jumped on top of a car for some reason. Fun fact. That the car that they had, right, with the megaphone on it.
Yep.
That drove around the cemetery looking for the shot because they could not just have that near it because there were other funerals going on at that cemetery that day while they were shooting.
Oh my!
Like,
we're horrified.
Imagine going to bury your loved one, and you hear just the most ridiculous, tasteless, just Southern accent, just like shouting, and you're like, "What the?" And then they go, "My bad," right? Like, what if you went to the wrong spot? You're like, "Oh, this isn't the one I'm supposed to go."
Crap, the wrong coffin. Oh man.
You didn't think at all that there was no The Big Show here. There was wrestling. I didn't know if he was going to be here. I thought we were going to do it in post. Like, why would you react if somebody were to pull up to the grave of your loved one, take out a chain, tie it to the casket, and then tie the chain to their car and drive off with the casket? I feel like the Big Show definitely reacted wrong. I probably wouldn't get on the hood of a car as it was starting up.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems silly. I don't know.
Well, he did a nice little roll off the car. He was okay. It was okay.
I mean, that's a lot of weight to be falling. When I fall, it hurts. I can only imagine him going, trying to roll off of a car. It's just, I don't know. Like, what, John, or how are you reacting?
It's just he fed a dog, and that's not even the worst thing he's. Hold on. Wrestling's crazy. Wrestling is just insane.
The fact that like somehow they're like, where do we go from here? How do we make this guy even more evil?
He towed a coffin. While actual funerals were going around in a police car with an.
It's got to be horrifying for the other people.
Is that actually like how megaphones were? Like, where did they even get that thing?
I don't know. Megaphones are us. Like, I don't know where you get.
It looked like a generator.
It looked like they took the air conditioning unit off of a building and put it on top of
totally.
it.
I don't know.
It's just wild to think about, like, you know, the effort you have to put in to directing and planning that, and then also to be the mindset of like, hey, the day of, let's get this done. Like, it's Tuesday, let's go do this, and we go to a random local cemetery. Hey, can we record this during the day? Yeah, but we have other funerals, so you can't interrupt it. And it's like,
what can we do that's going to interrupt everything? How about a megaphone?
And then it's just like everything is like just over. It's, I mean, that was the Attitude Era in the 90s. Is like, we're just gonna go through. Like, the thing is, the thing I showed you before, Carizze, that's the same year. The Kiss Demon is the same year as
that happened.
This.
Okay,
for a different company. It's like. It's just the late 90s
turned it up to 11 for everything.
Everything, right? Because it's like because you're constantly trying to top yourself, right? Like, all right, hey, we're gonna have this guy do this. Okay, we want this guy to do this. Okay, this. Hey, what if our like fourth or fifth bad guy on our roster
drags a coffin?
Drags the coffin. The same guy who fed it, like, I don't know. That seems like too much. Well, it's the same guy who fed a dog to somebody. Well, I guess that's the natural progression of like crime against humanity.
Of how this goes.
Like, we just gotta like give, like, where do you stop? I mean, eventually it stops by you just, take them off TV for a little bit. But like, I don't understand like where you go as a character other than
from there,
other than hell. Like you're just like, oh, I'm going to hell. Like, I'm gonna commit murder now. It's just wild that it's like, and of all the dastardly things. I mean, we talked about simulated necrophilia, sexual assault of an unconscious body, openly having an affair in front of your comatose wife, dropping stuff onto vehicles while people are in them,
just the most vile stuff that you can throw in there.
Attaching somebody's testicles to a car battery.
A what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or when they just cut it off.
And this happened as well. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, those are two separate things, by the way. There's the testicles. There's a lot. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, John. They didn't cut it off, right? Because he was cold, so he saved himself.
Well, I mean, that's not how they ended it.
That's true.
They cut the black, and you hear the scream. That was not what.
That's just wild. Birthing a hand.
Sorry, birthing a hand.
Mm-hmm.
A hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, it would come up years later.
What?
It would grow up to be a big and strong hand.
Yeah. And then it made its Wrestlemania debut this week.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
She was in her 60s or 70s when she gave birth to the hand.
70s.
What?
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
was she a pro wrestler?
Yeah.
She was back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But she was still taking bumps as a 7-year-old woman being thrown through tables.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we're saying all this.
Oh, you told me about this one wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah. She got put through tables. Let's see. What else? I'm just trying to think of like all the heinous things. There's just so much. And I'm sure like if I really like, hey, how many, like, what is the actual, like, this person probably should be in jail. I mean, like, simple assault stuff is just like simple assault and battery stuff you can't count because it's like, It's
Typical
wrestling.
wrestling.
It's
Right.
technically all of
Good.
it's a crime.
They had actual murders, so it's like
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Baron Corbin threw 2 guys off the top of the building.
that still couldn't make Baron
Yeah.
Corbin like watchable.
Oh no.
Well, that took Baron Corbin getting broke and becoming broke Corbin made him watchable. Seth Rollins took the eye, ripped the eye out of Rey Mysterio's socket.
Okay.
Oh, that must be recent. I don't
Yeah,
know
it
that
was
one.
2020 during the pandemic. It was an eye for an eye match.
Oh,
Yeah.
Creative. All right.
Let's see. What else is it? There's the fire. Set Bray Wyatt on fire. Kane set MVP on fire. Undertaker set Kane on fire. Countless. Oh, there was a time that somebody put the Undertaker in the back of a hearse and then ran like a Silverado into it and like smashing it like in half. There's that. There's a time.
Oh.
What?
The whole Lita situation with what's his name?
With
Kane also, but
yeah. There was I can't believe I'm talking about this on another episode. Literally just talked about this. Or was it? Did I talk about it? Actually? I don't remember. But there was a time that Lita was pregnant with the child of Kane, and because they're like, well, we can't actually make her look pregnant for the next couple months, so we gotta basically have her get an abortion, but like we can't make her decide to get an abortion because that's touch and go here and there. So we'll have somebody attack her inadvertently and cause her to
have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And
so
they did
that was his gimmick.
And then his gimmick was Gene says it wasn't my fault, and he kept saying it wasn't my fault.
There's a theme song.
But then one time, the one time he starts talking about it, he grabs a little like Cabbage Patch doll, and then he kicks it into the crowd. But he says that wasn't my. So it's just weird. It's like, So was it your fault or was it not your fault, Mr. Snitsky?
I think he was lying.
I think you did mean to cause a miscarriage in a woman. That's evil. Oh my God! I just remembered the the Heidenreich humping of Michael Cole and very weird sexual assaulty vibes from that as well. Yeah, there's just a lot of just bad, like Vince McMahon. I often say on this podcast that Vince McMahon is not going to hell because he already owns it. And I think he does. I mean, the guy also, there's also that where Vince McMahon has beaten God. He has a 1-0 record against God.
So talk about maybe famous reconciliations in wrestling, like two who were mortal enemies who came together and created some kind of power pack. Or
well, let's see. Is
that a thing?
Stone Cold and Triple H and Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first like real famous one that I can think of is Nikola Volkov and Dusty Rhodes. Now Nikola Volkov,
mortal enemies. Okay.
Mortal enemies, right? It's the 80s. It is the Cold War, and Nikola Volkov is Russian, and he's,
right?
And Dusty Rhodes is the American dream, and they were going to war. Well, Dusty Rhodes' tag team partner, Magnum TA, got in a real-life car accident that left him paralyzed for some time and unable to wrestle. And Dusty Rhodes is fighting for his life against the dastardly four horsemen, and he's fighting, and he can't, and he's just, the numbers are just too much, and here comes Nikola Volkov just running down, and he starts beating the fuck out of the horsemen, and he shakes hands with Dusty Rhodes, and everybody's like, yes, this is awesome. Okay. Yes, right? So that's probably, that's the first big one that I can remember. I mean, there's other ones, but that one's a big one. I would say, like the reverse is the mega powers exploding. I would probably then go like the Hart Foundation. So like Owen Hart and Bret Hart had become mortal enemies because Owen Hart was jealous of Bret. That Bret, his older brother got all the shine, and
I remember this.
Yeah. So then one day Bret Hart is like, "Look, Owen, I know I wasn't. I haven't been fair to you, and these people haven't been fair to you either. But when push comes to shove, we have to stick together." So they make up, but they make up and they're bad guys together.
Okay.
Then you have Triple H and Stone Cold and Vince McMahon all like becoming a power throuple. Before Triple H blew out his quad.
Call themselves the Power Trip or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, they called themselves a Power Trip, which is a very fitting name. Who else? I mean, Kane and Undertaker. Kane spent 9 months trying to kill his brother for revenge, and then they turn into the Brothers of
Destruction. Yeah.
Let's see. Mortal Enemies, Reconciliation. There's a real life one. 2010, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels bury the hatchet. The very famous Montreal incident.
You think they actually did?
Yeah, no, I think they actually did. I think both of them. I mean, it was 13 years. 13 years since. And
maybe I'm just
like
cynical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bret. Bret is the most justifiably petty person in professional wrestling. Like no one ever goes like, man, Bret's out of pocket for saying what he said. Like the man had his brother. Like
they do. They're wrong, but they do.
Yeah. I mean, some people. No rational person calls out Bret Hart for his takes because it's like, he's right. Look, his brother died on pay-per-view because WWE changed the company that they used for rigging their rappels and shit like that, and he died, and so there's that. His other brothers died. Davey Boy Smith, his brother-in-law, passed away on an overdose, and then he had his own career cut short because somebody didn't take care of him, and that's the number one thing in his mind is that as a wrestler, you have to take care of each other. Like, even when him and Shawn Michaels personally and professionally hated each other, they could go out there and work because they knew if this guy doesn't take care of me, I got to take care of this guy because if not, he's not going to take care of me. And they were professionals at that very base level. And then in 2000, Bret Hart gets kicked in the fucking face, and it gives him a concussion. A concussion so bad that it is
real.
Okay. For real, yeah. It is linked to a stroke he has.
Okay.
At 42. Like he has a stroke at 42 or something like that. Like an earlier age, right? When you're like, that seems pretty early for a stroke. That's concerning. And it effectively ends his career, and he can't keep doing the one thing that he loved, and it just is like a fucking fall from grace in terms of like the love that he has for professional wrestling. Like he still loves wrestling. It's a complicated thing.
Changed, yeah.
So he's very petty about it. He never quite forgave Vince McMahon for the longest time for causing a lot of the things that happened in his life, like lying to him. But eventually Bret Hart's like, look, I can't keep carrying all of this stuff, right? He's like, so I'm going to dump off some of this heavier things. I'm going to forgive Vince McMahon. We're going to come to an understanding. And he's been on record. He's like, I used to hate Shawn, but then I realized like Shawn's just doing what he's being told. Should he have not? Sure, but he still has to pay the bills himself, right? Like
Right.
and at the time he wasn't in a good headspace. He was addicted to some pain pills and some other extracurricular, drugs. And since then has like rehabbed himself. He's found God. He's become a different person. And Bret Hart's like, that's who I thought you were the longest time. And it's good to see that you are who this good person that I always thought you could be. Hey, like, make amends, we're good. But they very infamously shook hands and hugged and said, I'm sorry and I forgive you to each other. So that was like a real life one. Can't really think of any other like big time reconciliations, like, like making up mortal enemies coming together.
What about I mean, I guess not mortal enemies, but like you had Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth.
That's a good one too. Yeah, that's actually
okay. Who's
so.
Miss Elizabeth? Hold on, I'm looking as we go.
So Macho Man Randy Savage in 1983, he was going through. They were doing this angle, this story where all the top managers in WWE were courting him. They wanted to be, a client of his. And Randy Savage said, "Here, I'm going to introduce you all to my manager." And Miss Elizabeth, his real life wife, comes out from behind the curtains, and everybody is like in awe of her. She's the first lady of wrestling. That reaction you just had, that is the reaction that countless people had, because you look at her and you just feel warm and kindness. And that's who she was. This big Macho Man's over the top. He's yelling all this stuff. And even when he's a bad guy, you want to root for you want Miss Elizabeth to do well because you love her. She's so kind. She's so sweet. She's so nice. She's with this guy who's kind of a dirtbag sometimes.
Right.
And then they kind of turn it around where, a bad guy tries to get at Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man defends her. And everybody's like, yeah, they love each other. Yeah. And they go and they have a big time
married.
Yes. And then WrestleMania 4, the Macho Man wins the world title, and Miss Elizabeth is with there, and he's the world champion, and all this, and he starts hanging out with Hulk Hogan, and they're the Mega Powers, and all this stuff.
Right.
And then Macho Man starts to get a little paranoid and goes, "Wait a second, like, you're looking at my girl. You got that lust in your eyes, Hogan. Yeah, I see the lust in your eyes. Hot dogging, always about you. Yeah, I asked you one thing, Hulk Hogan. I asked you to make sure Miss Elizabeth is always okay with you. Never get her get foreshadowing." And then the Big Boss Man, in his first run in WWE, and Akeem the African Dream, the Twin Towers, they start to threaten Miss Elizabeth, and Hulk Hogan's down and he's out, he's handcuffed, and Macho Man takes offense to that because he's like, "Look, I told you if you got to take care of her when she's out in the ring with you, you take care of her." Well, obviously he's handcuffed and unconscious. You can't necessarily fault him for being unable to protect her,
do anything, right?
But at the same time, like, it's one of those cases like the bad guy's got a point. You understand why the bad guy is mad, but you're going to, because then he started to blame Elizabeth and saying that she wanted Hulk Hogan, that she had she was doing this,
she had the lust in her eyes,
that she was being convinced by Hulk that she's better with Hulk. She spends all this time with Hulk, and that's where the bad guy is like, come on, like, she's a grown adult. She can hang out with whoever she wants to hang out with, and they end up splitting up on TV, and like, he ends up becoming the Macho King, and Sensational Sherry, who is the antithesis of everything that Miss Elizabeth. She's loud, she's off-putting because she's loud and evil, she's sinister, all this stuff. Like, if Miss Elizabeth is the epitome of class and manners and stuff like that, and all this idea of like, oh, like, she's a lady. Sensational Sherry, for lack of a better word, is just a bitch. Like, she's nasty, she's rude, she hits people when she's not, like, she just, like, takes cheap shots. She's a bad guy.
Okay.
So now there's this whole thing of, Miss Elizabeth. Well, Miss Elizabeth goes away. She goes off TV. She stays at home. She doesn't want to be out on the road anymore. And in 1990, was it 92? Yeah, 92. Macho Man has his retirement match. He basically has to win a match against the Ultimate Warrior or he's going to retire. And in the crowd is Miss Elizabeth. And people go and they show her on camera like, wait a second, that's Miss Elizabeth. She's here. Why is she here? You know, wondering why she was here after all this time. And Queen Sensational Sherry starts to berate and slap the hell out of Macho Man after he loses. She blames him for being dumb and all this stuff. And Miss Elizabeth comes in and she slaps Sensational Sherry.
Okay.
And Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth come together and they have this moment of just love. And it's like, yes, we never want, like, yes.
People were crying.
The people were like, there were men and women were crying just because it was this thing of like, yes, it finally happened. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. Like, it always should have been this. And the fact that they went 3 or 4 years without each other is not right. And then a little bit later in the year, Macho Man proposes to Miss Elizabeth and she says, "Ooh, yeah," in the most adorable way. They have a wedding. The wedding goes off without a hitch. The after party, not so much. The Undertaker and Jake the Snake ruined the
good time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but Johnner's right. Like, they're not mortal enemies, but it was like a major reconciliation that probably is one of the better ones in WWE history, just because it's like everybody.
There's so much emotion involved. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how it's always supposed to have been. It should have never gotten to where it got. This is great. Men and women crying. I think when they do like the video packages talking about them, it's just like they just go like they just give like a full minute and 30 seconds in the video package of people just crying at because it's just, like men, women, children are crying because they're like, oh my god, like it's love, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't have the greatest real life ending, but it's wrestling. Like, that's a wrestling business for you.
That's really. I have literally 5 tabs open right now, ready to watch all those videos on all this stuff.
No, it's good. Look, it's when wrestling is a soap. Like, there's wrestling when it's a soap opera and it's very good, and that's one of the ones, right? Which is true love. True love conquering. But yeah, that's a good one, John. That's a good. I didn't even think of that. Can't think of
I'm here.
But Mortal Enemy, Big Show, and the Big Boss Man, they end up, Big Show attempts to get his hands on the Boss Man at Survivor Series. Instead, he just puts his arm around 3 different guys' neck and chokeslam them all of them at varying sizes.
Hey, he also body slammed Viscera.
He did. He also did. He did. And the earthquake that day. The big boy to get up. Like, a lot of meat in that match. A lot of big meaty men slapping meat, as Big E would like to say. But yeah, it's just we didn't necessarily. You get to comeuppance later. It's not the same though, right? Like, 'cause that was the moment that was supposed to be the comeuppance, right? He beat up Big Show beat up his entire team. He's like, I don't want anybody on my team. I didn't want anybody. So then he literally goes through the 3 biggest guys they got on the roster to get to Boss Man, and everybody's fucking like they're like, yeah, like the crowd was on their feet watching him just pick up big guys and put them on their back.
Wait. All the talk we had beforehand of like think of like the best stuff. Are you telling me that was on the lower end of the stick? Hold on.
I mean, yeah, he never actually got his hands on the Big Boss Man at the paper.
But he won the match.
Yeah, but is that comeuppance or is that no? Like the Big Show had to listen about some Hallmark.
What was the point of all this?
You know what? We asked ourselves the same thing. Like
It's wrestling for you.
Yeah, the comeuppance comes.
The quote of the night. That's wrestling for you.
That's wrestling for you. Look, it really, like, wrestling, especially nowadays, because there's the television product is such a strong aspect of it that
Right.
you're trained from the days of Hulk Hogan, all the way up to the Attitude Era, where big thing, stories end at the pay-per-view. You pay to see it happen on the pay-per-view, and the big event is when things happen, and that's when, in history shows the good guy beats the bad guy, right? And the bad guy gets his comeuppance. And that's not necessarily the case in this one, which kind of started the whole trend of that happening, where it's like, all right, well, we got to save some things for television. But overshadowed by that was the fact that, that all got overshadowed by the fact that Stone Cold got hit by a car. Night, because he broke his neck in real life, and they're like, we got to take him off TV, and they're like, how do we do him? Like, how do hit that motherfucker with a car?
How do we write this out? Yeah,
hit him with a car. Attempted murder. It's just like the 1999, 2000 are just weird times in wrestling, because WCW is doing everything they can to stay relevant,
survive.
Yeah, Viagra on a pole match. Still can't get over. And then you got WWE is like trying to figure out what to do without Stone Cold for the first time in 4 years,
a decade or something. Oh,
4
years only.
That wasn't it.
Yeah, he broke his neck like relatively fresh into his big time run. Like Hulk Hogan was on top for 10 years almost, and Stone Cold main evented WrestleMania 14, 15, and then broke his neck. And then he comes back and he main events 17, and then they're kind of they're trying something different while he's in it, like in his last two Manias, because he just couldn't go like he could. Yeah, wrestling's a weird collection of characters.
It is. It definitely is.
I just still can't believe that somebody thought it was an idea of just putting a man and Big Show jumps on it, man. He surfs that casket, and let me tell you, as somebody who works in the funeral business,
I was gonna mention something. Okay.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I've seen some crazy shit in my life. I never seen that, but I know what to do when I do see it. I'm gonna start recording it. Like, they thought they could be the big boss man, steal the casket. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation. It's like I still can't get over the fact that they did it like during regular operating hours, so that there was an actual funeral going on somewhere.
They couldn't get like a shutdown one, or just find like a time. It's just, that's crazy.
Well, like, I know for for my point of view, because I work in that
industry.
Industry. Like, I feel like my boss wouldn't have done it if they were like, "Hey, we want."
They wouldn't have said yes.
They would have been like, "No, we're good."
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my boss was like, "No, like, we can't. That's disrespectful."
Even when the money's good, I mean.
Yeah, right.
Vince comes a knocking.
Yeah. But like, they would want it to look like how it would look and everything, and that's how we like that's how our funerals look. Tent, the device and all that stuff. It looks exactly like that. But I'm not sure if they had an actual hole, or if they just made, because we can make it like, you can make it look like it's in a hole and it's not actually above a hole, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't, because
because the way that the casket fell when he pulled it, it just like hit the ground, like in that area.
Well, it hit
probably would have went.
It hit the ground, but it didn't. It was weird, because trust me, I've analyzed this so many times, and I'm just like,
how did they do this?
Yeah, and like I think about it sometimes. I'll look at my own, like, I'll be at work and there'll be a casket on the device, and I'm just like, if we move this down, does this fall in? Does this all go in? Or maybe,
hey Jim, get the tow hook.
Yeah, like,
I'm gonna try something.
Hey, go get the dump truck. I want to see something. But I mean, maybe I'll put it in my will that if I'm being, as a one last goof, just to have somebody pull
the casket
pull
away.
the casket away, and
Okay,
somebody jump
who's
on
gonna
it.
casket serve? Okay.
That's a good question.
Leave those details.
It depends, I guess. If I have a kid, it's got to be one of my kids, right? Like just to stick with the authenticity of the thing. I wouldn't be mad if my brother did it. I know he'd want to do it. He definitely would want to recreate that.
That moment just for you.
Yeah, he'd be like, you know what, brother? Like, you have a good one. Yeah, I'm gonna surf your body. I'm gonna surf your casket, pal. Yeah, I think honestly, actually, I think my brother would rather be the boss man in this situation. Would rather just be the one driving the car, or in his case, would probably be a truck. But yeah, I think maybe I'm gonna put that in my will. When I write a will, I'll do that. Be like, recreate Big Show boss man funeral segment.
I only want the one person, like the people who are going to do it. I don't want everyone else to just be surprised when it happens.
Yeah. The only people who are in on it, like, are the people doing it. Everybody else is gonna be offended. I want the cops called and everything.
Pure offended.
I want people to be like, "What the hell? How could you do that? You're evil." That's what I want. That's the reaction of people at my funeral. I don't want people crying. I want them offended by the actions of another.
Shocked.
I want them shocked and awe.
I don't know if they'd be ought to be appalled.
Appalled, yeah. Appalled's a good one, yeah. Johnner, if my brother doesn't want to be the big boss man,
I got you.
All right, cool. I knew I could count on you.
He was already ready.
Yeah. That's me and Johnner. I would boss man his casket, and he'd boss man my casket.
No one else had wanted to do it.
I love it.
Yeah. What kind of if you can't
we
count
gotta
on your
say
friends,
that in a conversation to a friend one day. I want to boss man your casket.
You know, man, I'd boss man your casket if you
I would
asked me
totally
to.
boss man your casket. Done. I'm writing it down.
How you know a friendship's real?
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, exactly. You know, if you're not gonna boss man my casket, I don't want you.
Don't bother.
Funeral. Yeah, don't bother coming to my funeral. You're uninvited from all of my future events. It's just boss man my casket. That just sounds like that's.
I love
that's
it.
What,
I love
that's
it.
One of those. That's one of those like just phrases that you're like.
I'm putting
Is
it
that
as
a
my
euphemism
status.
for something? It's just like. That's good. That's good. The way it's written too is just very funny. Yeah.
Like a pickup line.
Yeah, like, hey babe, I'd boss man your casket. What? The hell does that mean? What's my casket? What's boss manning?
Officer, hold on. Is that what you think?
Am I offended? I don't know.
Could you imagine getting pulled over on the way to your friend's funeral and you're like, I got an idea. Like, would you
borrow
like
your car?
Can I borrow your car? No, too bad. That's taking it to the like that's taking it a lot farther than I'd even think. You know, I mean, I'd accept if somebody did it with a regular car or a truck, but go and get the authentic thing, a police car. If you can make it look like a Blues Brother police car, that's even better. It's just like boss man your casket. It's just so like when I said it, I was just like,
"Oh, good."
It doesn't sound right, but also it doesn't sound.
But it
not,
does.
It does,
Same
right?
time,
Like
yeah.
it's
If you know, you know.
You know.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a T-shirt, but that might definitely be a sticker.
Totally a sticker.
Yeah, I'd boss man your casket, and it's just like, you know, being pulled along the casket. Yeah. As we wrap up here, after our fun time and our fun discussions today, we leave. I like to see what stood out, you know, for you guys. So, Carizze, we'll start with you. Final takeaways from
the quotes from today. We've got like a lot of. Well, that's wrestling for you. I would totally boss man your casket. Has to be a sticker. Yeah. And it was interesting actually, even learning about the Randy and Elizabeth thing. That was cool. I've got some videos queued up right now that I'm going to be watching post podcast.
Ooh, perfect.
Yeah, but that was fun.
Yep.
I like the fact that out of like everything that was happening, while Bossman was doing a poem about a dead father, Chris was like, "Wow, he should work for Hallmark." Yeah,
Yeah,
Hallmark
soon.
cards in your future. It
Yeah.
rhymed. It was a really good rhyme.
it was. It
guys.
was good.
It was really
Look,
good.
he
Yeah.
You
said
have to understand.
he's I think the line was
He's a
like
poet.
it was good poetry until he said the line, "If I had a son as dumb as you, I'd wish for cancer so I could die too." That's a little too.
Still good rhyme.
Good rhyme.
It rhymed.
Quality rhyme.
Yeah.
Like if you just look at it as a rhyme, it's a good rhyme. Great sentence structure.
Mm.
In terms of the definitely went over the line.
Wow.
But that's the big boss man. His line was somewhere like if he had done that, I feel like mocking somebody's dad for dying of cancer might be behind feeding a dog, killing a dog, and then feeding it to the person.
Pretty close.
Like they're
pretty
close to each other.
Yeah.
I think the feeding the dog to somebody is a little bit more on the like, yo, something's wrong with you. Like you seek help. You need therapy. And then dragging somebody's coffin off of their
I watched that video though, and he was sitting in the hotel having dinner by himself while the other wrestler was looking at him. Would you not stop at that point? Like, hey, why don't you sit down and have a seat with me? Let's eat together.
I mean, look, he was trying to get his dog back, he wants Pepper back, and the problem is
he had Pepper on his plate.
He just did not know that. It's just like, man, I'm going to show that to two poor souls at some point, and they're going to just be in just awe and disgust of what WWE was putting on television in 1999.
I hope the lead up to that is just talking about like favorite cuisines or how you like to eat steak.
I might now. I thought about doing like
right.
No explanation. They have no idea. Two people who don't watch wrestling. They're just talking about steak, and then you're like, "Well, interesting. We've been talking about steak. Let's go to and then you just play that and just that reaction."
Yeah, no, and they're gonna be wondering why me asking about their favorite way to eat steak and their favorite dogs, in movies or something. Like, what are your
it all makes sense now.
Yeah, oh my God, that's evil.
So talk about favorite dogs and then bring it to steak and then just play that. Yeah.
Yep. Favorite dogs, favorite way to eat steak. How do you like your steak? And then just going into how Boss Man stole Pepper from Al Snow. But yeah, this one was a lot of fun because it was like just remembering things. I feel like I've remembered there was just like, oh yeah, like this thing. Also, fun conversation about like just villains in general, getting their comeuppance. Makes me reminded me that Sid actually does end up, making all right for himself as a demented child who, tortured toys. But it was a good time. Before we go, Johnner, Carizze, I want you guys again to let people know where you can find you. Any causes or things that you would like, organizations or whatnot that you would like to plug. We'll start with you, Johnner. Floor is yours.
Twitch.tv/Johnner1223. You'll find me role playing and fighting the first boss of Elden Ring. Donate to charity. That's good. Do your research. That's all I got.
That's good, actually.
Yep.
And for me, on all the social medias, I'm Carizze or Carizze Hunter. Most of the activity, like I said earlier, is on TikTok. That's where you'll find me most. On Twitch, Twitch Carizze. Sometimes I do RP. Not as much anymore, but and then this summer I'm probably going to disappear. I'll be on my bike. So
yeah, I had to get you. I had to get you now because I wouldn't have been able to get you for the next probably 5 months. So
I'll be out doing that.
For background, when I messaged Carizze the first time to get her on with Miss Michelle Jean, it was, well, I don't know what days yet because I don't know what the weather's like.
Yeah, exactly. It all
I'm like-
depends on when the sun comes out. Yep.
So I'm like, you know what? Let me get Carizze before it gets really good weather. So, you know, I don't have to be like, I don't. You
Great
know, like,
timing.
great timing, because I feel like the good weather's right around the corner. So then you can get on the bike and just ride with the wind in
yeah.
your hair and helmets on. Always riding with
What's the
helmets.
saying? Sunny weathers.
What is that?
Sunny weathers?
It's a wrestling reference.
Oh, sunny days.
Sunny days, yeah.
Sunny days.
Yeah.
Sunny days are ahead. Carizze is gonna have some sunny days. But yeah, it's good, Johnner.
Thank you.
It was good. But yeah,
Full circle.
thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. I
thank
value
you,
our
Graham.
friendships, and I cannot wait to have you guys on again. Yeah, that's right, Johnny. You're
That'll
gonna be
be
on
fun.
here again.
The gasp.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Oh my God.
I don't know what has compelled me to cover the topics that we've covered in the last couple of weeks. But you know, maybe it's just that, you know, I work at a graveyard, so I think about, you know, whatever. You know, I just think it would be funny if somebody, you know, came to my graveyard and pulled somebody's casket off with their Blues Brothers cop car. And I'm glad that Carizze and Johnner were there to share. I get to show them and enjoy their reactions. Thank you guys again for coming on to Carizze and Johnner, and thank you for listening. Next week's episode, it is a fun one. We've got the most wildest of boys. We've got Purple. We've got Boondaba coming back on the show. The two of them together. We're talking the infamous gimmick that is the Booty Man. And there's a reason why I picked the Booty Man for those two. We'd get into it a little bit and talk about it. But it is a fun episode ahead of ourselves. Thank you for listening. Remember to check us out at Dorkside Ring on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also follow the podcast host, me, at I Am Grum. You can also support the podcast for free by continuing to support support us with the socials, share, tell people about it. Also go to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. Help us grow there. Help us grow on Spotify by leaving a 5-star review. I appreciate that. And you can also help us grow financially if you so choose. Go to support.grum.tv. You can be a patron, a member of the Llama Club. That's right, the Llama Club. It's an old joke that goes way back. Somebody said the Too Sweet kind of looks like a llama, and it kind of does. It kind of does. You ever see somebody throw up the Too Sweet? It's supposed to look like a wolf, right? Because a wolf pack, but it does look like a llama. But you get all that stuff for as low as $1. You can help us out there. You can also just become a member of the Grummunity. Join the Discord. Go to grum.tv. That'll take you straight to the Discord. Join and be a member of the community. I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. Next week, Booty Man, me, Boondaba, and Purple talking about the Booty Man. That's right. Old Brutus the Barber Beefcake himself in one of his many WCW gimmicks. Arguably the most wildest one being the Booty Man. We'll see you guys next week here on the Dork Side of the Ring, where we don't take wrestling serious, because wrestling is better when no one is taking it serious. I am Grum. I'll see you guys next week here on the Dork Side of the Ring podcast.